The government moving to pass the social media ban, of course, by the end of this sitting week. New polling is revealing an overwhelming majority of Australians support the regulations. According to YouGov, 77% of Australians support the ban. It's a big increase from the 61% recorded in the last poll in August. So support growing. 87% surveyed support the introduction of strong penalties for social media companies as well that fail to comply with new laws. Joining the panel now, Nationals MP Keith Pitt, who is reserving his position on this. So it's something Peter Dutton said was sort of his idea and then Labor followed him. Why are you taking issue with potentially taking issue with what's being voted on here?
Well, Tom, any piece of legislation that comes before the Parliament, I apply the same lens, which is, will it work? And at the moment, my answer is, well, I actually don't know. And the second part is around the process. So my understanding is that this was made public last Thursday. There's been an inquiry of 3 hours. I've got 15,000 submissions. They were limited to being less than 2 pages. So clearly, firstly, there's a lot of interest. Secondly, there's a lot of concern. And I am completely on board with actually taking action.
Okay.
But what is the urgency? So what's the difference between now
Well,
and
a lot of
February?
urgency parents would say because, you know, there have been kids who have suicided over this. So that's the urgency. On the sort of process, I've seen plenty of times in this place where the two major parties agree and then 6 months later they don't. So does it make sense to get something legislated so that one side can't change their mind? And if there are bits to change in the future, you can still do that. There's still going to be a trial. There's a phase-in period where it's voluntary as well. What's wrong with all of that?
But that's the question. And for me, that's the point of balance. So which way does it tip? Does it tip towards do something which may have other consequences, or wait, a month, 2 months, do a proper inquiry, get more input, make it even better, then implement it? And that is the tipping point.
Maybe the revolution happens within the Nationals, Peter Dutton doesn't have support, and then nothing gets passed.
Well, there's all of those risks. But right now, this is what's before us. And I'm happy, and I'll speak this afternoon or tonight, whatever time it comes around. And I've reserved my position because I just don't know. Now, I absolutely accept that this is a problem that has to be fixed, right? Completely.
Are you wary, though, of undermining Peter Dutton this close to an election, or at least the appearance of that?
Well, I've got to tell you, if all that I'm asked for here is obedience, you've got the wrong guy. So
might you cross?
I'm here to get outcomes.
Might you cross the floor?
Well, I've never done it before. I want to see action on something that will make a difference. We had a tragic circumstance at my daughter's school in recent weeks, and I don't want to get into the details of that, but the local principal, Dan McMahon, went on the record with another media organisation. His concerns were around Snapchat. I've seen what's happened with my own children who are older now. And on this stuff, I take my wife's advice because she's raised our kids single-handedly. I'm just not there. So she's dealt with the bullying and harassment, the things that you would get from being an MP's job, right? That's what happens.
That happened more on social media as a result?
Instagram, Snapchat.
So targeting your kids because you're an MP through social media happened a lot?
Absolutely, no doubt, without question. So my youngest has now graduated from high school. She'll be moving on to something else. And for many of my colleagues, this is deeply personal, that they've had tragic circumstances their own. I get it. But my question is this the right approach and will it work?
And you pointed out to us off air, doesn't come into effect until 2026.
So the enforcement provisions are 2026. So if you can't actually fine anyone for not taking action, then what difference will it make to take a few weeks to look at this in detail? It's one of the rare occasions, I agree with my colleagues in the Senate, where this is something that should be looked at more closely.
But when does the ban come into effect? I mean, when should parents say...
It's not enforceable, isn't it, from next year? So it will be in, just not...
So it'll be legislated. So there are no penalties.
So it's some kind of honour system, is it? Whereas parents, we're supposed to say, oh, look, they passed this legislation, there's no penalty, but get off the Instagram.
Well, some of that happens anyway, right?
Yeah.
I could tell you it's happening already. And this is the point. This is why I think the argument about whether the mechanics work is that this has already shifted the dynamic in many families.
Well,
because parents can say, look, this is being banned, and it's giving parents something to work with. But that's why it's so popular.
Parenting is parenting, right? You stop your kids from doing sort of dumb things all the time.
But if every other kid in the class is also being told the same thing, it carries more weight. This is shifting the balance of the broader debate.
Yeah,
that's why it should be voted for.
The reality is they can get around it quickly, right?
Of course, you can go around and get a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah, but that's a different argument. This is highly technical. I'll guarantee you, every kid under 16...
Someone goes into a bottle shop every day of the week at the age of 17 with a fake card. They'll get around it. It's the same thing.
So... under 16, they know more about this than me. There's no doubt about that at all. This has infiltrated every part of their life. whether it is playing netball on the weekend, whether it's cricket, whether it's a message from the coach, whether it's don't forget to bring the oranges. It all happens.
But it's actually a bit like changing the alcohol age from 18 to 21. That's what they're looking to do here when you think about it. And that would not be easy. And that's what they're actually doing.
No one's saying this is easy, but in terms of the timing and the process, I've got a lot of very experienced Senate colleagues who are concerned about it because it's just so fast. And what is wrong with taking a few weeks
to get more submissions? But it's a 12-month review. You've got to review. This place is all about review. Why not get something done?
Because the impact is so large.
But then you can review it. If there's a problem, fix it.
Yep.
What do you think's motivating the rush? To have the legislation without the scheme. I mean, it's like you've got the legislation without how to implement it.
Well, this is a question for the leadership and for the Albanese government.
No, but what's your suspicion?
Well, my suspicion is politics will be involved. That's not unusual.
They just want to get this up to have a big win at the end of the year.
Well, there's always
before the election.
Well, the Greens have rolled over on a heap of things. They've got plenty of wins to talk about. But for my job as a backbencher is to make sure that what we're doing is right. It's not simply to trundle along and agree with everything that's put before me. It is to look at it in detail.
Why is the delay? Why can't they get it in place earlier than 2026?
Well, that's what's in the legislation. I'm sure they could change it if they wish. Someone could put up an amendment. But we've got what we've got. I will look at it. I know I'm literally torn. I don't know what to do here. And as I said to you off air, I talked to my wife about these things and she doesn't like it. She thinks it's a silly idea. But
why is that?
Something has to happen. Well, because the kids will get around it and they use it so much for so many things, whether it's education, whether it's school.
It's a bit like how we used to call our friends on the phone.
Imagine
That's how
that.
they communicate.
Yeah, when you used to hang on the wall, right? And had a dial on the front. But the world has shifted.
And they're not shutting down the whole internet, mate. You still can communicate on via WhatsApp and other things. They're shutting down Snapchat, the thing you spoke about. They're shutting down Instagram. They're damaging social media elements.
But a few weeks ago they weren't.
No, but now the legislation does not include WhatsApp. It does include these other communication facilities.
But that's the point.
It's not shutting down the internet. They can learn on there as well.
It didn't include Snapchat not that long ago.
Okay.
Right? So there are things that you can always improve. So sure. I am legitimately torn about what to do.
Well, it's not like you can't contact someone. I mean, when I grew up, you had to call a landline and speak to Mrs. Jones before you'd take
Mr. Pitt.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty easy to get in contact these days, and you'll have WhatsApp and other.
Yeah, and in terms of bullying, it's because your bully never goes away. It's 24/7. Look, I spoke about this in my maiden speech.
That can happen on WhatsApp.
13, correct.
All right, got to leave
More likely to even.
We had other topics, but it's a passionate one. Keep
Imagine
it.
that.
Thank you.
Great to be there.